Why the big interest in whether there's a God or not? Why do I give so much time to it? Why have I written a book about being closer to God? I've named the channel Closer to God. I suppose the vast majority of the videos in some shape or form are in relation to spirituality, stroke God. I listen to thousands of people, and I've read hundreds of books on this subject, and albeit lots of this stuff has been interesting to me, I haven't been furnished with the fundamental answer, because there isn't one. So lots of people would say then, well, you know, it's insolvable, why don't you just give up and do something else? Well, what else? What else am I going to philosophize about? Because at the end of the day, you see, what this religious, the spiritual stuff does, for me, it encompasses religion, spiritualism, philosophy, ontology, and history. I suppose everything, really, what pertains to the human being. Because if we look into the deepest realms of our psyche, we enter into the abyss. We enter into the realm of the unfathomable. But if we enter into the realm which is devoid of the egoic consciousness, then we enter into a state of consciousness which is absolutely bliss, like nirvana, like the Buddhists say. And that is a feeling which could be akin to heaven. Short of feeling ecstatic, it's the best feeling that I've ever had. The feelings of being ecstatic are very overwhelming, powerful, and short-lived. And so I would think that the best state is the state of nirvana. And so what I can say now, having taken closing on 300, it's got to be closing on 300 entheogens, or rather experiencing 300 truths. I've enjoyed all of those excursions, and I feel as if I've learnt a great deal from them. Whatever that means, who knows? Because nobody can share what I have experienced, and nobody's interested. And out of 75 of you that have bought the book and read some of it, none of you are compelled or enthralled to want to speak about the spiritual facets of it. It doesn't mean anything to you, does it? It means nothing. And so, well, this life is just solely a subjective experience. We're all having subjective experiences, and the only time we are ever interested in anybody else is because they're serving us in some shape or form. That is the absolute bottom line of it. And I will never listen to the Good Samaritan, or the compassionate, or the goody-goody two-shoes, and the do-gooder, and the charitable person, and all that, because ultimately, at the end At the bottom line of all that, it is self-serving. Everything's self-serving. And so even if people like Mother Teresa have been considered to have spent her life working for the benefit of other people, she's had a certain acclaim, she's had a certain devotion, her name is up in lights, and been up in lights for a long time. There's a whole bunch of connotations. And I can't help thinking from the very beginning, if people start to be kind, and then people start to say, oh, look how kind that person is, then it's a little bit of incentive to continue. So call me a skeptic, but I don't believe there's anything outside the human self-centre which drives anything in any shape or form. But what I will say is about all these experiences I've had with these entheogens, all the experiences that I've ever had with everything, I think I would be pretty sure in stating, proclaiming that the greatest state for the human being to be in is the state of absolute stillness of mind. It's the realm of pure bliss. This is why the Buddhists have been speaking about it for thousands of years, and it is their goal to experience this nirvana, this, I think in real terms, the term is samadhi. Samadhi is the short-lived version of nirvana. Nirvana is the ultimate, and we can't experience this apparently until we die, and I don't know how people have come up with that one, but it may be an assumption, because, well, if we can't experience samadhi 100% of the time here, well, maybe we can when we die. Maybe it's like that. But who knows whether there's anything when we die. So I think it's just an inference, just an assumption. But this state of samadhi, when the ego has left us, completely left us, people, there isn't even a semblance of the ego. We are in the nothingness. And when we're in the nothingness, being a human being, well, it isn't exactly nothingness. It's a somethingness. It's the human state, absolutely at peace with itself, physiologically and mentally, completely, absolutely at peace with itself. That's the best possible state I've ever found. And when you're versed in meditation and you've done many things to extricate yourselves from the drama of life, then you can enter into the next best thing of this samadhi. You can enter into a very chilled state between bouts of hunger and tiredness, maybe aches and pains, and wanting to serve the body, you know, in whatever ways it needs serving. This is why we can't meditate all day long, because the body has to eat, and it has to defecate and urinate, and it has to sleep, and it has to move, and it has to be active, and it's got lots of requirements. So we can't sit in endless meditation. And the most I've ever done is about 5 hours. And I've done 5 hours a day, many days. But I've never really managed to do any more than that. But when we are in this very, very tranquil state, and we're not called upon to do anything, and we don't have anything going on in here, we can just observe the natural beauty of the world. Well, it's very much like heaven in my mind. And so, with all these incredible experiences on entheogens and in different altered states, I can honestly say that the best state to be in is the state of samadhi, the state of peace, where there's no agitation in the mind, there's no thoughts, there's no pressing engagements, you don't have to do anything, be anywhere, comply with anything. You're just observing with an empty mind. And when the sun's shining and it's warm, well, that's very easy to do. And when the world is in full bloom, it's much easier to be in that state than it is in the heart of winter, when it's freezing, you're uncomfortable, it's too chill of wind or whatever's going on, and the trees all look the same because they're all barren. And so, looking at what I've discovered in life now, I'm feeling less and less inclined to have these highs. And albeit this experience with DMT today was impressive, I've seen that many times before, and the only thing I can do really to get something different is to go into a different place, to go into a different environment, to see the world in a different way. And so, for instance, in suburbia, you know, where there's a lot of activity, but of course you've got to be very careful what you're doing, because you can't get seen doing this. But to do that and then to look at a different facet of the world is very interesting. Now, I once did DMT in Lincoln Cathedral. Now, for those of you that are British, you might have an idea of what this Lincoln Cathedral is like. It's a cathedral. It's huge. It's incredible. And it took 800 years to build, because of course they kept extending it and stuff like that. And I thought maybe I would have a mystical religious experience or something like that. I never did. I never even came close to having that. What happened was everything within the cathedral, all the columns and all the carving and all the figurines and statues and the cut stained glass windows, they just went into some level of otherworldly perfection. Now, when you look out of a stained glass window on a beautiful sunburst day and the sun is teeming through, you actually get a religious experience just by doing that, through the light and the diffraction of the colours and, you know, ideas of the imagery, the religious imagery being portrayed, and in the grandeur of such a building which has the energy of all these people working with love, with great skill. Well, when I looked at the stained glass windows, they were almost completely dull in comparison, because they all went like plastic. You know, when you've got plastic coloured perspex, they look like they were plastic coloured perspex as opposed to glistening diamonds of all different colours. Under normal circumstances, when the sun is beaming through, there's a magic there, people. Well, the DMT took the magic away. in that particular instance. And I was very, very disappointed about that and curious. They all looked flat, opaque. I couldn't see through. I couldn't see the light beaming through and being diffracted. No. It was like there wasn't a single photon penetrating through. And it was really, really just boring, very disappointing. And all the statues and everything, I could see everything was all shifting, all the marbling in everything, it was all swirling around, you know, looking like molten rivers, or looking like, you know, a can of worms. Everything is moving, but other than that, it was a very mediocre experience. But looking at the clouds with the same experience, well, you'll see images, you'll see garden, all different sorts of stuff. And then when you look at the natural world, you'll see entities in everything. Everything is alive, everything is living, everything is in a state of ecstasy. And of course your brain is flushed with ecstasy, because DMT, the molecule, is almost identical to that of dopamine. And so you can imagine getting a massive influx of dopamine. So, having now taken lots of those entheogens, I'm resigning myself to the fact that the best state is to be pure. And I'm not sure that any of you actually would be that pure out there. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to hear from you. But what I mean by pure is that you don't have any addictions. You don't have the addiction of caffeine, nicotine, and you know, whatever other varieties of pharmaceutical you're on, or cravings of this and that, and lusting and all that. When you see, the body needs certain satiation, so it has to cater for certain things. Let's say the food and the drink and the sleep and the sexual relief. Otherwise there's a tension there. There's an underlying tension, and the tension builds up, and this is what Freud would reckon caused you know, people to have neurosis. It was the non-expressed sexual energy. Because in the Victorian days, when masturbation was deemed to be evil, and you know, when you're living in Victorian times with all those sort of impositions of biblical connotations and that, well, particularly with women, you see, you saw a massive amount of women, and he reckoned, well, you know, probably men, they would have no issues with masturbation, but you know, women, you know, maybe they were less inclined, and so therefore their energy wouldn't be spent, and the energy would build up to such a degree whereby it would have to have a release, and so it would be directed by the body into a neurosis, which is a form of illness. Not necessarily a serious one, more like an accentuation of an idiosyncrasy, or something like that, or hysteria, you know. But if you wake up in the morning and you are absolutely rested, and your mind is absolutely still because you don't have anywhere to go and anything to do, nothing is calling on you, there's no kids, there's no partners, there's no job, there's nothing calling on you. When you can wake up every single morning and just lay there for as long as you want to, then you are free. And if you don't have the calling, of course, because when people have addictions, then as soon as they open their eyes, they need the caffeine, they need the nicotine, they need their medications and all this sort of thing. I've just got to keep scratching because, you know, these itchy things on my feet, I don't know, well, I've been bitten by a load of stuff or what. But, you know, it's kind of lasted about a week or 10 days now. But I do keep going to the graveyard every day, and so I don't know. The little ants are biting me. But yeah, I mean, how many of us are absolutely free like that? You see, this is the beauty of the Buddhists. When they live in these monasteries, and they're living on pure foods, and their bodies never experience nicotine or alcohol or chocolate, or any number of things that could be potentially addictive. Their bodies are pure, and they're just drinking water, and so their body is always very, very close to godliness. And so that's why they can slip into meditation much deeper and easier than people from the West, because we carry too much weight. And so I've reached a level whereby I've emancipated myself from all these things, and I can wake up in the morning and not be called upon by anything, save for going to the toilet. But if you're not busting to go to the toilet, then you just lay there in such a state of peace. It's very emancipating. And that is the best human experience, to be fair, because that level of experience you could tolerate infinitely. Whereas all the other levels of experience, the highs, you couldn't tolerate them. It's like being in ecstasy or having an orgasm, having a high from exercise or any number of things like that. They're short-lived, and they'd be exhausting to continue. But you can continue in this samadhi type place. And so that's what I found. And what I'm thinking now is, even before, I was going to be taking DMT. I haven't took it in 2 years, and I thought, well, probably now what I'll do is it'll tell me that I don't really even need to take it. In actual fact, there's no point in taking it because I'm not getting any more. I've seen it, and if you've seen it, it's like Alan Watts used to say, well, once you got the message, just hang up the phone. And what's the point? You keep picking up the phone, hello, 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 expecting somebody different to be there. There never is. And I've heard about these wonderful experiences people have had, because in the early days I used to listen to people's stories, and I fancied that I would want to see these machine elves. Oh, fuck yeah. By the way, I don't know anybody that's ever seen them. It was just, something particular to McKenna. Then there is this Joker character that you can see. Well, I would love to see the Joker. I really, really would. And I have an amount of stuff left, and so, I'll probably do it all. And I'm going to, ask to see the Joker before I finally vacate and see if that manifests. But, yeah, I mean, I've only had a particular realm of experience, whereas other people have a particular realm and a particular realm and a particular realm, but nobody has a broad spectrum of everybody's realm. It just doesn't work like that. These things work particularly for us. And for me, I just have the greatest of propensity to open my eyes and see the natural world. I even do it unconsciously. And so this afternoon when I was doing it, I found from time to time I was closing my eyes, but then my eyes were open again, and most of the time my eyes were open because I seem to get the greatest benefit from seeing the world. There just seems to be more to take on rather than just what's in your mind's eye, stuff that you can't comprehend, and I've never seen any beings on any of my DMT trips in my mind, but I see beings in the clouds and in the stones and in the grass and in the trees and all that. So we go figure. But yeah, so I just thought I'd run that one by you. And yeah, there's something else that I want to talk about, but I'll make another video about that. Let me just wrap this one up. You know, all the people I've listened to about religious experiences and religious scholars and philosophers and all this, well, they've all got their own idea, and none of them invariably share their idea with anybody else. And so we can say to ourselves, well, why is that? Well, it's because there is no definitive truth about anything. It doesn't matter, you know, how religious you are, or how bright you are, or how much you've studied, and this, that and the other. You've just got an idea of what it is, and there's billions of ideas, and we've all got one of some degree, and I think that's it really. There isn't these big answers that people are looking for. There really isn't. And so, you know, for me, even though I know that, I don't think I'll stop looking into it, because I find it very intriguing. Because within religion there's spiritualism, there's psychology, and there's philosophy, and there's history, and then there's all the rest of it, you know. And so it encompasses everything. And so if you are philosophically inclined, spiritually inclined, psychologically inclined, analytically inclined, in whatever realm, then you'll find it in religion, because everything is wrapped up in religion. Of course it is. Of course it's about philosophy. Of course it's about psychology. Of course it's about history. Of course it's about ontology. Of course it's about, you know, metaphysics, and you know, the so-called physical world, and the non-real world, and the illusory world. It's about everything. And you know, the thing is about religion is that there's supposed to be gods which are non-material. They are spiritual, and we are looking for these things in a spiritual context. When, like Margaret says clearly, well, I mean, you know, you don't bother your mind with all that. You just believe, and you just accept it, that it's true, and open your heart, and then you'll feel it or know it in some sort of way. And I'm like, how do you just turn off your brain? How do you just turn off the intelligence of your body, which doesn't believe that? It's got too many problems with all that. How do you just do that? I haven't found a way how to just do that. But I do know that you can enter into a heightened state of religiosity by discounting your critical thinking, because I have done that to a degree, and I did find that I was sinking more and more into that realm because I wanted to. I wanted to experience what it was like, so I did let go to a degree. But then my rational mind brought myself back. I suppose the world brought me back, you know. I think it's easy. This is why we have nunneries and we have monasteries, because I think probably that's the only way we can really do it. When we don't have any distractions at all, and you're fingering your prayer beads all day long, you're praying, you're reading your Bible, and you're walking by imagery of Jesus and all that, and that's it. You're in a constant state of hypnosis. Well, in those conditions, then it does get easier, because I'm a trained hypnotist. I knew how to hypnotize myself to a degree like that, and so I did do, and I experienced a certain encroachment of feeling like that. But unless you really want it, and I didn't really want it, I'm too intrigued by the humanities, you know, the sociology, the psychology, the philosophy, and all those sort of things, spiritualism. I'm too intrigued by all that, and religious studies. I'm not inclined, and I don't think I could, even if I wanted to, just discount everything else and just go, oh no, I believe everything that the Bible says. And just to wrap this one up, I was listening to, you know, great intellectuals. In actual fact, this conversation was between Alex O'Connor of Within Reason podcast, and Ben Shapiro. And Shapiro, of course, is an advocate for the Jewish God, and Alex is an atheist. And it was a great conversation with two, you know, excellent level intellectuals. And one of them mentioned one author, I think it was in this conversation, of this woman who wrote this book, and it's a bestseller now, for whatever reason. And she just said, well, I absolutely believe in God and Jesus and everything that the Bible says, literally, because I want to. And that's it. It's as simple as that. I just don't see the benefit in questioning it. Because if you want to believe in Jesus and God, then the last thing you're going to do is look at the Bible with a critical mind, because that will tear a new arsehole in that religion. So you can't do that. And in my experience of all the people that I was acquainted with and interviewed in a certain realm, they just said that. They just said they just want to believe it, because Jesus has saved their lives, and without Jesus they wouldn't be alive, and all this sort of, and I found Jesus. I was on rock bottom with drugs and crime, and now I found Jesus and he saved me. All this sort of stuff, you know. But no, I don't think. Well, have I been saved? I suppose I was saved in some sort of a way. And my whole book is about me being saved, I suppose. But I can't attribute my being saved to Jehovah, Yahweh, or Jesus, or Allah, or Muhammad. My God's bigger than that. My God is the Spinoza God. My God is the God of the cosmos. The intelligence of the cosmos. It's not a manifestation of a male or a human form or anything like that. It's just the mind of genius, which I'm a part of. We're all a part of. That's my God. Wow. Alright, peeps.